Ayana next to me, and
Hello,
my friend
hello.
Greg, who has an incredible story of triumph and just a comeback story. So we're just going to get it going. Greg, you got a lot to say, so get to it.
Okay, so my senior year of high school, the first week of school at football practice, I had experienced a heat stroke, and that had caused me to go into a coma for about 7 or 8 hours. A bunch of tests were getting ran on me, such as MRIs, CAT scans, trying to figure out what the deal was. I finally woke up in the intensive care unit, very confused. My speech was very slurred and choppy, like a stroke victim, and there was a clear neurological issue, but it wasn't figured out at that time. I was discharged a couple days later and was given an ambulatory EEG for 48 hours that was able to detect that I had epilepsy. And from that point on, I was seeing a neurologist, but the issue was we couldn't get the correct amount of medicine titrated in my body to fight the epilepsy. So throughout the school year, I experienced seizures very often. I was getting between 5 and 6 of them a month, which was keeping me out of school quite a bit. Yeah. Unfortunately, because of all the school I missed, I ended up not graduating on time, and I was not allowed to walk with my peers. And despite an honorable GPA up to that point, I was denied the privilege to walk at graduation, and I had to take summer classes that summer in order to recover those credits. But since then, I have now completed 2 years at West Virginia University. I actually just made the president's list with a 4.0 this last semester. So
Congratulations.
thank you so much. So things are going a lot better now than they were before.
Yeah, man. No, it's definitely being there. On top of that, too, I mean, you had shoulder surgery on both your shoulders, so you was out for months at a time on that, each shoulder.
That's right. During the football season, with the seizures combined with the impact of playing football, I actually tore my labrum in both of my shoulders, and that caused me to have to endure surgery in January and then again in March. So that kept me out of school even longer. It was another healing process on top of the newly discovered epilepsy that I had. It was just a cycle of things going wrong all at once.
So take us through like the series of thoughts and feelings throughout the whole experience. Like when you came out the coma, when you received the diagnosis, when you figured out you couldn't graduate, and then when you had to develop like a new plan of action.
It was definitely an emotional roller coaster. I felt a lot of anger, some hopelessness, some desperation. I was envious of people that I was never envious of before, just because they felt like they were on the top of the world, and I was at the bottom, and that was something new to me because I'd always performed well in school. I was always involved in athletics. I was also involved with student government, so I was always someone that did the most to contribute to school organizations and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So for me to be in that situation where most weeks I'm only going out of school 2 or 3 days out of the week. I have no idea what's going on in the classroom. And then on top of that, my social circle is struggling because everyone's worried about me, and I can't see my friends or communicate them effectively like I usually would because of how much time I was spending at home recovering from these seizures. So there were definitely a lot of emotions that I had to go through, but it was a journey.
Yeah, because just being on the other side, the other perspective. I remember getting the news that you had collapsed on the field, and, everybody came to come see you in the hospital. I came along to see you in the hospital, It was definitely wild to see, and then to hear that you were having seizures, and then to hear that your show, all this was going on. And I remember you were in my class. I think we had world religions together or something like that. Mm-hmm. And, it started to crumble at that point, and we noticed you weren't in class, but at the time, I never really thought of what exactly was going, because your whole world flipped at that moment. You know what I mean? Like when that happened, like just to sit back and look at it all, it's ridiculous how things flipped for me. Because you were two-sport athlete, two-sport varsity. You had your letter in track as well. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Football, track, you were a starter since sophomore year. So it was wild to see you not in the room. And it wasn't until kind of after we graduated and seeing how everything panned out going into the summer that I realized, Greg really went through it.
And that's a good thing that you mentioned that, because I felt the same thing where I knew I was struggling, but at the time I didn't really notice the severity of it and how the consequences may be long-lived. So even though I knew I was struggling in school, I had always I'd always gotten over that hump before, so I figured this would be no different, because the irony of the whole situation was, despite how much time I was missing in school, I wasn't performing terribly on exams. I wasn't failing every test I took. It was just I wasn't there enough to complete all the classwork and the homework and couldn't make up those missed points, and that's what ended up making my grades suffer. So you're not my only friend that felt the same way, where everything happened so fast that you noticed I wasn't going to school, but you didn't really know the specifics of what was going on. And then it took a while, after the whole graduation ordeal, where people kind of sat back and realized, wow, you were going through a lot, and people were just kind of brushing it under the rug, and you were just expected to kind of act as you were before.
Yeah, senior year too, because like that was a big year for me, and I was trying to make moves on the track, so like I'm focusing on myself, and everybody of course is just that's your year. Everybody, they feel they're top dog. We made it through. Anybody that's been in sports, this is your last year, you got to show out. So I was on my own grind, and all this was going by. I remember stopping by and coming to see you, at the house or whatever, and people would be there. You'd have a bunch of people there, but like a lot happened at the school overall. Like even the situation with Jake Lennon and Kellen, like those things were going on all that year. So much happened so fast that it really did take that moment when we went to graduation and we found out that despite all the accolades you had throughout high school, and despite the consistency of just a good student, what's your contribution? That like the policy, it didn't matter to that. You know what I mean? And we really did try to rally around you and we started a movement. The retweets, the hashtag, we got you on the news. You know what I mean?
You put it on the news?
Yes, we got it on the news. Go ahead, run us about that.
That was one of my questions.
Yes,
did you and your family try to?
Yeah. Okay, so we can get into that part of the story. Okay. So there was actually I think it was a baccalaureate rehearsal the day after the seniors' last day of school, and so that. First of all, I was not informed that I was not going to walk until the seniors' final day of school. I got to school and I got called down to the office, and my guidance counselor sat me down in her office and said, unfortunately, you didn't make the grades and you will not be able to walk. So she gave me the option of either staying in school the rest of that day or leaving. I was like, bye, I'm not staying here any longer. So then the following morning, the whole senior class was in the auditorium for the baccalaureate practice. And
sorry, what's a what?
Baccalaureate, I believe, is just like some spiritual service they hold for the graduates before graduation. And as I mentioned before, I was actually my class's vice president. And my good friend Brad had been the president for the previous 2 years. So the student council advisor was up on the stage speaking, and Brad was up there, and he happened to take the mic from her and shout to the entire senior class that Greg is not walking because he's sick, and he pretty much got the word out to everybody. And then that kickstarted a movement instantly, where you can look up Let Greg Walk 2K15 on Twitter and see people tweeting from all over the country with the amount of exposure that this whole ordeal got. And as Quincy mentioned, I even was featured on the news. The news came to my house and interviewed my mom and I and asked us about the whole situation. It was a huge deal in my town. So
how was the communication with the school district and the administration there? Were they empathetic? Were they indifferent to your whole situation? Or
I don't really want to bash anyone here. The communication, I would say, throughout the entire thing was very, very poor. There were a lot of meetings held towards the end of the school year with my mom and all my teachers and my guidance counselors trying to figure out plans to get me going, but it seemed like no one was really in a position to help me. They were just like, he's either going to do the work or he's going to fail. So at the point where I wasn't allowed to graduate, there was no communication between my school and my family at all. We had decided afterwards, because we were getting a lot of advice from so many different people, and they tried to get us to pursue a lawsuit and things like that. But at that time, we were dealing with so much pain outside of what was actually going on that we couldn't really process trying to go through the legal process and doing all that. So as of now, we haven't fought them for any kind of injustice or anything like that. But as far as communication between myself and my family and the school, it was poor throughout the entire thing, and that's one huge contributor, I believe, to why it ended the way it did.
And it's funny because we was talking about how fast, like when things started to crumble, how quickly time flew, and it took until graduations for us to see back. But in the 3 or 4 days that seniors, we get out early, we get out early, and then graduation happens on the actual last day of school. Those like 4 days seem so much longer than the entire process. Like, and I mean, I'm sure it was different for you, but that's what it seemed, because everything was brought to light, and then that's when the entire school and, you know what I mean, some of the community even, I mean, and just even the internet, just people got involved and people rallied around you. And I remember that seemed longer than the school year itself.
And I just like to point out that right there is what really started to motivate me to get over this challenge and to really, you know, achieve my goals and become who I wanted to become. Because at that point, like I said before, I was feeling somewhat hopeless, but to see, you know, complete strangers, you know, people in the school that I might have known in passing but weren't really that close with, to know that I made that much of a positive impact on these people, that they were willing to speak out against, you know, the structure of education on my behalf was very humbling, and it was a good thing to see.
Yeah.
So how did you persevere and push through? Like, was self-talk a major method, prayer, quotes, music? Like, just how did you get through?
Well, my mom is my rock. She definitely helped me throughout the entire thing. You know, after the whole graduation thing, I was very down, and she looked at me straight up and she said, listen, she was like, you've achieved everything you've ever put your mind to your entire life, and you still have goals you'd like to reach. You know, she recognized I was down, but she told me that, you know, you will overcome this, and you will end up better in the end because of it. And I know it's only been a short time, it's only been 2 years, but I've seen a lot of progress within myself since that moment. I have a much bigger appreciation for life and just the small things. You know, people don't really understand the impact of walking across that stage on graduation,
right.
But it is a big deal, and not to just me, but to my entire family, because, you know, I'm a first generation college student going to a 4-year college,
right.
And I have an older brother who did not graduate high school, so I was the first child of my parents to, you know, actually graduate high school and then go right on to college,
right.
And, you know, I had family planning to come from all over to see me graduate, and the fact that I had to, you know, look at all of them in the face and tell them I wasn't going to graduate was.
You guys just felt like you were robbed.
Yeah, it was the most hurtful thing of the entire process. But since then, I think I'm a much bigger person, and I will never take anything for granted again.
Yeah. So I mean, my experience with graduation, like the ceremony, everybody just wants to get their diploma and get out. You know what I mean? Like all the speeches and whatnot. But when my name got called across, and I mean, when my name was called and I walked across, grabbed the thing, you know what I mean, shook. I don't know whose hand I shook, but you know what I mean. Like it was a nice moment. It was definitely great. So like sitting back and looking at that, like I don't know when I smiled harder. You know what I mean? Just to know that it was all done and that's
you
all
always
over.
smiling. Like
I know I am always smiling, but like that time, I know my face was about to break off. I was smiling.
Yep.
So like that's just something you were robbed of too, and it's ridiculous. It's kind of wild. That, I mean, policy is policy, and I remember after like this happened, I think it was in between, you know, the graduation and, you know, when we found out you couldn't walk. Me, Brad, I can't remember who else. I think Nate. We went to Mr. Shu, or just whoever we could go to. We had a meeting with him, and we tried to say, well, is there a way?
Who's Mr. Shu?
Mr. Shu, my bad. That was the principal. And we just wanted to ask if there was any way we could begin to change the policy. Because, all right, we understand we're not going to change things for you, you know what I mean? Your situation was that. But for somebody in the future,
right.
You know what I mean, that is going through something that's out of their control, and
right.
all of a sudden there's a sudden slip.
Now, what exactly did the policy state? Do you know, like, verbatim as far as...
I do not know verbatim what the policy stated. I think a lot of it had to do with, I don't know if you've ever heard of what an IEP is, but it's an individualized education program that kids with any kind of disability or disorder gets when they're in school. Now, because the diagnosis was so abrupt and we had not been through that process before, we didn't know that we had to have an IEP on file to actually try to fight any of this that was happening.
Oh.
And getting back to the poor communication between.
So they didn't tell you that?
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
Right.
Not at all. And then in addition to that, when I first returned to school in September after the whole falling happened, I went to my guidance counselor and I asked her, do you think it would be smart if I were to do cyber school for maybe a semester until I get my health under control, and then, you know, maybe return to school second semester and finish on my senior year? Well, because now, as you know, when you're a senior in high school, you have a lot of freedom with what classes you can take. You know, you're required 3 maths and 3 sciences and 4 Englishes, and that's about it. So you can take whatever you need.
Right.
Now, because I was going to college to be a nurse, I wanted to take some advanced science classes to help prepare me for that rigorous nursing program. So I took AP Chemistry and a college prep physics class, which were not necessarily needed for my graduation, but I was trying to put myself in a better position for when I went to college. And those were the 2 classes that ended up causing me to fail, were 2 rigorous classes that I didn't need. And I even got off on a little tangent, but I went to the guidance counselor asking about cyber school, and she told me, no, that's not an option for you because of the classes you're taking. And I looked at her and I said, well, this schedule is not necessary. We can work around it and get me the credits I need to get out of here. And they were not willing to cooperate.
Now, do you think there are other underlying factors that influence the way that they dealt with you? Like, how's the diversity at?
My school's not very diverse. The administration, all the teachers, it's a very white school. And I think it also had to do with the kind of student I am, because I know a lot of students who aren't really involved in anything, and you know, they just never show up to school, but they somehow get pushed out. But I think it's because of the power I had in that school. They were like, you know what, this is when we're gonna break down.
Yeah, make an example. Yeah, I mean, the diversity it changed. I think with our class especially, like as far as at our school, it's definitely growing. But it's still, the contrast is crazy. As far as there's kids walking down the hall with Confederate flag belt buckles and you know what I mean, shirts with it. Yes.
This is where we come from.
We saw this every day. Like, you know what I mean, there'll be kids, you know what I mean, that drive Confederate flags like on their trucks, things like that, you know what I mean? So the minority is a very small minority, but it's very tight knit. It is, I mean, people got along. There wasn't many instances of where there was a clash that, you know, involved in disciplinary action or anything like that. But
it was those subtle
we had like when we would play York High. Like, York High is the inner city kind of school in our league, and you know what I mean. Majority of the athletes are black. So let's say if it was a football game or a basketball game, out of spite, on several occasions, I remember our student section would purposely be like Hick Night or something like that. Would be the theme, and they come dressed. You know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, and we had to sit there and kind of just be there and see that. And
there's no reason to beat around the bush. The racial tension is very real in Redline. I feel that a lot of people may try to ignore it because it's new to them and they're uncomfortable because the diversity that's growing is very new to them. But the racial tension in that school district is very real, and I feel that I was a victim of it, unfortunately.
Especially since you were in those prominent roles within your school. You were the vice president. You were on you said varsity football,
track. I was on the honor roll the whole time.
Right.
You know, I was well liked by everyone in the school. Like, there was not one teacher that had anything bad to say about me.
And that's what blows my mind too, is because this was a sharp decline for an obvious reason. Like, your performance at school, which was just, you know, the grades just because you couldn't get them in, was for a reason that was out of his control. You know what I mean? It's not like he was showing up every day and just started slacking. Like, obviously his track record shows he was producing the entire time. You know, and I know, they said they sent home the work with you, and that's how they covered themselves, saying, we gave you the work, you know what I mean? You were supposed to do it while you were home recovering. But like, policy doesn't ever empathize in the sense that, like, what are you going through mentally and emotionally and physically? The physical pain you described, you know what I mean, like seizures, just your whole body, you know what I mean, is in pain from that, and just shoulder surgery, you know what I mean, and like how that was going down, and just the fact that your world flipped. Like, how are you supposed to concentrate on the work? You know what I mean?
And I think a lot of it has to do with just being unfamiliar with the condition. I don't think a lot of them are very versed in what epilepsy is. So, you know,
can you talk about that a little? Like, just the people who don't know.
So epilepsy is a seizure disorder, and what happens is, if I'm having a seizure, it's usually very quick, maybe a minute or two. My body goes through some extreme shaking. I typically will, you know, bite the whole way through my tongue. It's a pretty scary thing. And then I wake up completely confused, not knowing what's going on. And then what happens is they call it a post-ictal state, where I fall into a very deep sleep for about 12 to 14 hours for my brain to actually get that REM sleep and to recover from all the damage that was done. So I don't think they quite understood how debilitating it was every time one happened. And I was experiencing like 1 or 2 a week. So if you think about that, I have to lay in bed at least for half a day to recover from it, and then I will wake up and have extreme headaches. My muscles would hurt because my body was shaking so intensely in such a short period of time. So it's very scary, and unfortunately I feel that no one else had really had to deal with that kind of issue before, and that might have led to the lack of empathy that they had for me.
So how is your understanding of epilepsy different now? Like, how are you coping? Do you have some home remedies or methods that you use to make the condition easier?
Well, happily, I'll be able to say on June 9th, as long as, knock on wood, as long as I don't have a seizure, I'll be seizure-free for 2 years. My neurologist finally got the correct medicine and the correct dosage that helps. Pretty much what drives me to have seizures is a lack of sleep and a lot of stress. So I just have to make sure that I'm getting at least 7 hours of sleep or so a night, and I just try not to stress the little things in life. I mean, everyone goes through stress, but go ahead.
So were you do you feel that you were under a lot of pressure and stress during that time in high school?
Absolutely, because I wouldn't go to school for 2 or 3 days, and then I would return, and then my teacher would get in my face like, listen, you have to get all this work in, and it was so overwhelming because I was still an athlete. So I was still trying to balance, because I was also on a path to playing college football. So I was trying to keep my grades up and cope with this illness while also trying to get recruited to play football. So there was a lot on my plate at one time.
No, prior to you getting the diagnosis, do you feel like you were under a lot of stress because of everything that you
the diagnosis actually came right after I was discharged. However, I was experiencing some neurological issues for a couple years that we were trying to get figured out, but I never actually had a grand mal seizure before, so they didn't really know what it was. So there was a little bit of uneasiness and stress going into it, because what ended up making me have the heat stroke was actually the medicine I was taking for the undiagnosed issue actually had a rare side effect that wouldn't allow my body to sweat effectively, and that's what caused my body to overheat and have the heat stroke. So the fact that the epilepsy I was taking medicine for, and then the medicine failed, caused me to, decline even further. It was definitely stressful leading up to it. But since then, I have a great doctor now, and my health has been good. So,
yeah, we're gonna have to take a break on that, because I'm sitting here trying to absorb it, and it's still blowing my mind. It's unfortunate. But I mean, we have a happy ending though, so we'll get to that after the break. You know what I mean?
All right.
So let's see. Let's start it out here.
So we're here with Greg. What's your last name?
Tebow.
Greg Tebow, with his amazing story about a plot twist that he had during his senior year of high school. So let's pick up where we left off. So sometimes I feel that it's in the darkest moments that we kind of go on this quest of self-discovery.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I got you. I got you.
So did you have a significant experience or meet someone important or learn something really major about yourself that you felt wouldn't have happened without this particular experience?
I think my perseverance definitely shined the brightest throughout this entire process. I was never one to give up on anything when things got tough, but I never imagined that something so severe would happen to me so fast. So I don't think there was necessarily one moment where I had that epiphany where, I'm going through all this and I have to overcome it. But I think throughout that entire year as a whole, I really, as you could imagine with me being home so much, I had a lot of time to just sit and think by myself and, really evaluate who I am and what I want to achieve. And it got to a point where I had to look at myself in the mirror and look and say, despite whatever's going on right now, you have to go chase this check, and you gotta go to college, and you have to get your degree, and you have to accomplish the big goals in life. So
so let's talk about the summer after that. Graduation's over. There's nothing we can do about it anymore. So that summer, you're taking summer courses. You're about to go to WV. So let's hear the rise. Let's hear the incline here.
Okay, so about a week after graduation, I found myself back in Red Lion's office with my guidance counselor discussing my summer courses, and ironically, my summer courses were, one, not as hard and not even related to the classes that I failed. So that showed that I could have taken those easier classes prior and walked, but that was besides the point. So It was a cyber school program. I could do it at my own pace. I just had to get it done by the end of the summer. But the problem was that I had this crutch holding me back in high school while I'm trying to prepare for my freshman year of college. So I'm attending college orientation and, you know, seeing my dorm and getting my schedule and getting all excited for, you know, this new chapter of my life, yet I'm still held back on the whole high school thing because of something that was out of my control. So I ended up passing the classes with ease because, like I said, they were not very hard. I took a personal finance class and a world geography class. They were very, very easy and straightforward. And then smooth transition into college. I'm pretty sure I had like maybe a 3.5 or 3.6 GPA in my first semester of college. So despite the hardships that I endured in my senior year, I picked up right where I left off and continued to, you know, excel in school. So.
And then you hit me with some good news too on the way up here. So as far as how's this year going? And yeah, let me hear that because that was dope. His plans is balling.
So I actually just met another fork in the road. My school has a very, very selective nursing program, and pretty much if you don't have between a 3.8 and a 4.0, they don't let you in. So unfortunately, my GPA is not quite that high, and I didn't get into the nursing program, but I also have a passion for psychology, and it's nice because my school's psychology and nursing programs have very similar prerequisites. So I actually, this past semester, I switched my major to psychology, and because I'm so far ahead and because I've taken so many classes already, I'm actually on pace to graduate a semester early. And then my option to pursue nursing from there is to attend a school and do what they call a fast track program, which is an accelerated program where it's 18 months straight constantly of school, but I'm going to be walking out with a BSN. So I have to be in school for bachelor's of science in nursing. Okay. So I have to attend school for an extra year and a half, but the end all be all is I will have 2 degrees in 5 years.
Wow.
Right.
So not bad at all.
Right. That's
finding blessings in turmoil.
They fall in my lap. Dang, we should have played that by chance. Blessings keep falling in my lap. That does happen though. That does happen. But let me see. Is there any more direction, any overall general message that you want to kind of give out from this? Anything you want to project?
I just like anyone who feels that the odds are against them right now, and you know the world may be, you know, hovering over you, and you may feel hopeless. There is hope. Find that support system. Find what you need to get you going, and try to leave everything in the rear view and attack your dreams. I know it can get difficult, and I've been there before, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
And so, I mean, since we kind of wrapped up just the whole story part, I think a great way to keep a good topic flowing, because you did mention, where is it that you're trying to go to after you get done with David?
I'd like to go to Bowie State in Bowie, Maryland. Mm-hmm.
All right, so you said that's an HBCU. So I think, you know, we were just talking about the lack of diversity at Red Lion, and I'm not sure what the diversity is like at West Virginia, but what do you think, how do you think that diversity and being in like the HBCU environment, what do you think that would do for you? How is that going to benefit you?
I think it's going to give me some culture I've been deprived of for so long. You know, my family's from the Caribbean, and we were all originally New Yorkers, so we were used to an environment where, you know, there's a Jewish neighborhood here, a Chinese neighborhood here, a Trinidadian neighborhood here. We were used to seeing everybody, and I lived in Montgomery County, Maryland for a while too, and it was the same thing, you know, where you saw representation from all different ethnicities, but in Red Lion, you know, you're either black or you're white. That's about it. So I think that going to this HBCU is going to be refreshing, because I've been in institutions that aren't very diverse, and I'm, you know, I don't get opportunities like this to really talk to people of my color that often. Right. So I feel that if I go to this HBCU and I start building my professional connections at a school where, you know, majority of students and faculty are black, that's really gonna jumpstart my career in a direction that I'd like it to go.
Right. So if you could go back to that entire time, what would you do differently? If anything, of course.
I think I would voice my concern to my teachers and my guidance counselors a little more, because I know personally I'm the kind of person that doesn't ask for pity. You know, even though I was going through it, I didn't really want anyone to go out of their way to feel bad for me. So even though I was going through all this pain and, you know, physically and emotionally, I didn't want any handouts. You know, even though I wanted to graduate, I wanted to earn it myself.
Right.
So I think that if I were to go back today, I would try to express it to them more, you know, how debilitating the condition actually is and what I actually went through every time I had a seizure. That way they weren't just thinking that I was skipping school trying to embellish something that wasn't really that severe, and maybe things could have gone differently.
Which I think education is like, that's partially like the general, I mean the overall, I can't think of the word, but like just, I think if people knew more about the condition of epilepsy, you know what I mean? And that's what policy could have been more in place for that. And that's why I wanted to push that. Me, Brad, and Nate went in and we were like, you know, I don't know if it would have been specifically for epilepsy, but you know what I mean? If we could draw that out for somebody else who does face some similar, you know what I mean, just flip in their life, you know, to at least give them the privilege. It's like, I mean, schools do this stuff all the time for children, you know, who may have cancer, you know what I mean? Like you know, they'll rally around them, or a special needs student to come in and they'll play basketball. You'll be on the basketball team, or they get them on the football field. Or I think at our prom, which I don't think you got to go to prom, did you?
I was there.
Oh, you were there. I remember you was in the picture.
I went with Julia,
Good.
I was there.
This guy's so hyped.
No, Greg was in the
I made
picture.
it
That
to
was
prom.
exciting.
Yeah.
That was exciting. But nah, like, you know what I mean? I think we had the boy, he had Down syndrome, Cody, like, you know what I mean? So like, they're, like, we can rally around for things like that. And it's just funny because graduation, I had to go back into the auditorium. You know what I mean? We had graduation outside at the, you know, at the field, but I had to go into the auditorium to get my actual diploma. So it was all for show. That whole thing was for show. So that's what blew my mind. Like, you know what I mean? If schools across the nation, and you know, even our school, do things for, you know, people who are going through rough times, or you know, we had foundations. I think there was a boy who had cancer. He lost his battle to cancer, but we did things. We have the mini-thon.
Right.
You know what I mean? Charity, like, so we do things like that, you know what I mean? You know, for empathy, you know what I mean? Trying to raise awareness for certain things, and just trying to make somebody who might not be having it the best way right now, make life a little bit easier, give them a golden moment. So that's why it kind of blew my mind that it seems simple. Because if the diploma wasn't actually there, like he wasn't physically getting it, if it was all for show, if that's all the graduation ceremony is, why not?
I could have walked and not gotten a diploma at that time. Right.
Why not?
Right.
That's what blew my mind. And we tried to express that to, you know, Mr. Shu, and say, like, maybe we can put in a policy, and we just have to write out specific instances, which everybody's instance is different, though.
Right.
So I think that would have been the flaw in the policy, because, you know, everybody get, you know, things, people
Medical
go through things
conditions,
different
nothing's
ways.
black and white.
Right. Things come in at different angles. So, but still, you know, it just seems somebody coming through with a clear track record this way, and obviously the flip wasn't due to your negligence. It was due to things out of your control.
Now, did your doctors intervene in like in the negotiation with the school as far as trying to explain exactly what you were facing?
Well, my doctor was very specific. Every time I went to go see him in my discharge papers, he wrote out everything that I told him as far as symptoms I was feeling, the way I was feeling. So he was very, now I don't know how that information circulates, because, you know, they fax it to the attendance office, but beyond that point, you don't know who sees it. So as far as direct interaction, there was none, but I know that there was documentation that was actually stating, you know, how severe the condition was. And, you know, I mean, I had doctor's notes to excuse all of my absences. It's not like I was just missing school and didn't have anything to show for it.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, policy is policy. I remember they tried to do me like the attendance office at Redline was so petty, because I thought I was good with the attendance lady, because you miss school and you go to her, and like, you know what I mean, you just fill out your form, and like, you know, especially senior year, you know what I mean, like, she's cool with the seniors. And I remember it was like the week of counties, and Simi, you know, Simi's he's my coach, more like a mentor, family, you know, back home. I you know, been training with him, getting ready for the postseason my senior year, and you know, he told me, just sleep in, you know what I mean, this day, the day, you know, before counties, because, you know, the sleep is important. So, you know what I mean, come in at 9 instead, or whatever. And I think, like, I don't know what the time was, but, like, there was a certain time that I came in, and I missed it by, like, 2 minutes. And she said, oh, you can't go to practice now because I came in at like 9:30 instead of 9:25 or whatever like the dumb time frame was. And so like the day before counties, like my pre-meet practice where I was supposed to be with the team and like preparing, I had to go practice on my own. Like she did me dirty. All of a sudden at the end of the year, I don't know what's up. Like policy is policy.
And I experienced a lot of that where teachers you thought you had a good relationship with, they went sour so fast.
I'm glad that happened at the end of the year too.
I mean, I didn't mention this earlier, but one of the teachers that failed me was my AP chemistry teacher. I actually had him my junior year in honors chemistry and got an A. And then, so he knew me very well and he knew what I was capable of, but still ended up failing me my senior year. So,
but I had kind of a similar situation. I think it was my junior year of high school. Yeah. There's like a VIP award, so it's basically given to the student with the highest GPA for that specific school year. So throughout all of high school, it was kind of like a race to the top between me and maybe 3 to 4 other students for the number one spot, just overall, but for each school year as well. So this particular year, 2 teachers that I was very close with, they told me that a spreadsheet was sent around and it showed that I was the top student for that year. Now, it surprised me because the other 2 students, they took a lot of AP classes, but it required you to move around your schedule so much that they would take like certain classes online, they would skip gym or whatever, things that I wasn't willing to do because I still wanted to be, in classes and stuff. But it took me by surprise just knowing how they manipulated their schedule to take that number one spot.
Right.
So normally around this time of year when the ceremony happens, they invite the top 10% of the class. They don't invite the entire student body or whatever, right? And usually it's kind of on the hush as far as who's getting what, but the news circulated so fast because like I said, these top 2 students always got this VIP award. So the students themselves told me like, oh yeah, you heard you're getting the award or whatever. It's because we didn't have enough credits within the actual classroom to qualify for the VIP award. So they themselves told me this, right? But something, how you just have like a gut feeling, like an intuition that something's not right. So like I said, in combination with the fact that this news had circulated, they themselves are telling me why they didn't get the award. Just the whole thing just felt funny, right? But I just stay positive. The ceremony comes. They say, all right, we're getting ready to give the VIP award, and they say the name of the student who's gotten it for like the past 2 years. So everyone's gaping, everyone's shocked because they knew that I was supposed to get it, right? So my dad marches right up to the principal at the end of the ceremony. He's totally oblivious, like he has no idea what's going on. So we call him the next day, same thing. So I told my parents, like, we're gonna fight this. So we called the district, they pulled up the records, and I was indeed the number 1 student. But they could never answer where the miscommunication happened, where the issue was. But there were guidance counselors and teachers who knew these top 2 students very well, probably pulled some strings. And one of the things that I did do, because like I said, they only invite the top 10% of the class. So one of the reasons that I fought was I wanted them to announce that I was the proper recipient of that award on the loudspeaker during first block, because during homeroom everyone's talking, no one's paying attention. So specifically stop class and make this announcement. And the response was insane because I remember when they made the announcement, I was in AP history. Half of my class is predominantly white, and then the other half was Hispanic, Black. And once they made that announcement, the uproar was insane. When I left the classroom, the hallways, you got, the guys who like dapping me up, like, that's what I'm talking about. And it's like, you realize that those things matter. Like you mentioned, like walking across stage, graduation, having that demographic present at those ceremonies, seeing each other succeed, especially people of color, that encourages us, that's empowering, that uplifts us.
Yes.
So that's why I asked for that certain moment, because I knew what it was going to mean, not only to me, but the people that I knew and who loved me and I, grew up with throughout my entire, high school career, but my parents, they wanted to go further, like, writing to the newspaper and, really going deeper. And at the time, like, it's the end of high school, you got so much going on, and I was just exhausted emotionally and mentally with the whole situation that, that I said no. But looking back, like we spoke about earlier, it's about making that change so it won't happen to the next student.
Right.
And it's a question of how many times has that happened to someone else where they were the proper recipient of an award and they were robbed.
Mm-hmm. And it's great you bring that up, because that's another thing I took away from this whole thing, is that my graduation transcended beyond me. Like I stated before, my entire family was looking forward to seeing me graduate. I wasn't worried about how it would affect me. I was worried about how it would affect the rest of my family, because I have grandparents that are getting up there in age. My grandfather unfortunately passed away last summer, so it's just like my graduation was something that even in his declining stages he was looking forward to going to, and then he ended up not being able to see his grandson graduate. So it's great you bring that up, because we don't always, sometimes when we're fighting on our behalf, it seems like we're doing it for ourselves, but really a lot of the times we're doing it for the people we love and the people around us. And I know, as far as the kind of power that I have in my community, Quincy could tell you, I'm sure that there are so many students of color in that area who look up to me, just because I had the academic achievements, I had the athletic achievements, but I wasn't someone that felt like I was above anybody.
Right.
I talked to everyone.
Right.
So on that note, we're gonna go to a quick break. You're listening to Link Up on GenesisRadio.com. We'll be right back with Keep It 300 and What's the Deal? Link Up on GenesisRadio.com. So as usual, we're going to wrap up with Keep It 300 and What's the Deal? So I found it interesting, right, that on May 7th, Nicki Minaj went on Twitter to pick a winner for a contest in promotion of her latest video, Regrets in Your Tears. But a follower asked if she would help pay his college tuition instead.
Oh, yeah.
And surprisingly, she replied and said, show me straight A's that I can verify with your school, and I'll pay it. She said, who wants to join that contest? Just let me set it up. I'm dead serious, right?
She got bread.
She got bread.
She got bread.
She got that long dough cake, all that, right? So from there, she offered to help all her fans who needed help with college tuition or had student loan debt. And by that Saturday on Instagram, it showed she had paid over $18,000 to at least 8 of her fans who needed help with loan repayments, tuition, and books. One fan, his name is Devontae Portis. He's a sophomore at Ohio State. He said it took less than a week to get it all taken care of, and I'm registered to go back this summer. And he expressed that he's thankful to be a fan of an artist that genuinely and authentically cares about her supporters. But she also announced that she will be launching an official charity for student loans and tuition payments.
All right, hold on now, because I feel really passionate about this type of stuff, just because that's what you gotta do. Mm-hmm. Like when you get money, especially like because I always say this. I think we've had this conversation before, Greg. Like there's not a lot of old money or just much money in general in the black community. So like as a black artist, like, you know what I mean, usually getting paid as a black person, it's not many, or at least well-known business people that are getting paid are the entertainers and athletes. Mm-hmm. When you get on, give back, right. Uplift and bring up, like she's right. doing.
And just like to mention that Chance the Rapper started that initiative with his donation of $1 million to that the public schools of Chicago, and I hope that this becomes a domino effect that
if the government won't do it, we do it.
Follows.
If the government won't do it, we do it.
And Chance also created an arts fund to help schools that were affected by major budget cuts. And then last month, Beyonce announced that she was doing a scholarship for conscious and confident young women.
That's beautiful. Need. I've been a proponent for years that, I believe that some of the biggest names in hip hop, such as, a Diddy and a Dre and a Jay-Z, should, all get together and get their money together and do something, you know, for the
Bring everybody
HBCUs.
up. Yes,
you know,
bring us up.
give back to the black community in some way. And you know, and I get it. Once they get to that position of power, you know, they're always walking on eggshells as far as PR goes, and they don't want to say the wrong thing and bite the hand that feeds. But I believe that these, like Quincy said, the only black people in America that are in the spotlight making these kinds of money are the entertainers and the athletes.
The musicians, the athletes. And see, I think that's why it's a major key, talking about DJ Khaled earlier. Because you have these young kids who they're supporting these artists, and they look up to them as role models. So, you know, you have these kids who come from underprivileged neighborhoods and families who the only channels for success that they really see, you know, like you said, it's in the music, in the entertainment industry. So to see these major figures offer this,
and that's
this educational help and show that other possibilities
but this
exist.
is the other wild thing too, because like she's asking, like, these kids have to be making grades. You know what I mean? She asked them to make grades, so obviously they are achieving like the athletes are on the field. They're achieving that way in the classroom. But depending on what school you go to, where you from, that gets overlooked. You know, it takes a scholarship from Nicki Minaj to get recognized and get this full ride and go to, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And go to college, be the first in your family to go to college, whatever. You know what I mean? So that's what blows my mind, and that's what we need. Like, we need that. Like, oh my gosh.
I think there's this stigma out that, you know, a black person in the spotlight, you know, whether they're a rapper, singer, whatever, if they put an effort to give back to the community in some way, they might be turning their head to their white fans, you know, or you know, they always try to say you can't take these people out of the hood, but I think that's what they need to do is, you know, start with education, and then, you know, maybe they can put money aside to help with the gentrification in our cities throughout the nation. I think that there's a lot that these people could do. They just need to. Chance the Rapper had to be, you know, the person that set the trend, and I hope that everyone will follow.
I mean, I think LeBron did something similar too. I can't remember how many. A great number, like, he paid for these kids. Like, and I mean, that's what you got to do, dog. Like Michael Jordan, you next, dog. You a billionaire, I think, right?
Yeah.
Michael making billions. You next.
Well, we don't want to talk about where Mike.
Right off.
Yeah, but he's got money coming from private prisons. So I mean, I guess.
But you got his sneakers on his feet.
Gym, like,
I buy the sneakers, but I don't necessarily agree with the business ventures. But that's a different topic. So.
They don't buy it.
No, we getting socially conscious real quick, but real quick, because
what's the deal?
What's the deal? So in Penn State, which Greg is taking over right now, I appreciate all this. But Greg mentioned in Penn State there was a hazing incident where a young student, what's the fraternity again?
Beta Theta Pi.
Yes, there was a hazing incident as far as, I guess, for his initiation, they were doing a drinking game where he had to consume different amounts of alcohol, I guess in a certain amount of time, running throughout the house or throughout wherever. You know, they made a game out of it. Dude drank too much, and he ended up passing out. I think fell down the stairs.
He fell multiple times. He fell multiple times throughout the night. The brothers did not address the issue as it happened. They actually tried their best to conceal it and kind of just left him sitting somewhere. And the next morning, no one called the police until I believe 11 or 12 o'clock the following morning. And they arrived, and the kid ended up passing away. And as a result, there are several brothers that got charged with involuntary manslaughter and hazing and you know, furnishing alcohol to minors and all kinds of travesties. And it's tragic that something of this magnitude has to happen for, you know, this issue of drinking on college campuses is actually looked at and addressed, because I mean we all go to college. We can probably
we know about it.
We can all agree that the culture revolving around alcohol is pretty dangerous, and you know, I hate to shine the light on Greek life, but it seems that these things only happen to, you know, these fraternities. So it's really sad.
We're not talking about, you know, I know Kappas. Kappas are dope. But yeah.
I like how they're like just a separate species. I know Kappas. Kappas are dope.
Yeah, no, Kappas are dope. You know what I mean?
Hey, shout out to the Kappas.
Yeah, the Kappas, you know, they be down there with their candy canes dancing and shimmying, and you know what I mean? They take care of it. Oh, see, you always got something to say, Terry.
No,
you know, we got 2 minutes.
With the zingers, it's you, Terry.
I'm
You be throwing it on.
I'm a graduate of FAMU, and I ain't pledged nothing because I'm my own man.
That's what I mean. I'm on the same vibe.
I agree. I feel like
I got my own kahunas. I ain't riding nobody's.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not for that.
I'm not part of.
I watched probates and stuff like that. Like, it's dope. It's kind of cool. Like, it's cool to see, but like,
I just feel like they have like this we instead of me mentality, but it suppresses your identity.
Yeah,
and this
like,
whole idea of hazing.
I'm here to progress myself.
Most of
Right.
my cornballs anyway.
Yeah, like I'm here to progress myself. When I go to school, I'm trying to pick up as many pieces as I can to push myself and elevate myself forward. You know what I mean? Like it's great. The brotherhood is great. The camaraderie, the connections that you make. You know, being that everybody there is looking to be as successful.
I think
Everybody's
it's
in
a
the forward
pair of
moving
rose
thing.
tinted glasses. Like I have one friend. He went to
What was
Temple.
that? Hold on, what was that phrase? I ain't trying to cut you.
Rose tinted glasses.
Never heard that. That's
as
nice
far
though.
as the connections and the camaraderie. But
Yeah.
you know, I have this one friend. I think he went to Temple, and he said the whole process of getting into the frat, that when he was finished, he like dropped down on his knees and started crying, and it just seems like they break you down.
Yeah, for what though?
For what?
Well, I think
feel
it's also worth mentioning that, I mean, I don't know anything about your friend you just mentioned, but the culture in white fraternities versus black fraternities is very different.
Yeah,
Very different.
yeah.
As far as the activity that goes on with, you know, all the drinking and, you know, the black frats still haze, but the methods they use to haze their pledges compared to the white
When they sing
fraternities,
songs
I've
in the
noticed are very
probates,
different.
like they're nice. It's
Very,
cool.
very different experiences. So
Black frats are dope. All right, we gotta wrap this up. But yo, we had a great productive
Thank you, Greg, for
conversation.
coming.
Yeah, Greg,
and
I
sharing
love
your
it.
Thank you for
story.
having me. I
loved it.
appreciate
Yeah,
it.
we gotta go though. But you've been
Thank
listening to
you,
the Link
Theo.
Up. Yeah, thank you,
He in
Theo.
the cut,
Cameraman,
filming.
you can't see him.
shout out Theo.
We running overtime, but yeah, yo, like this has been Link Up.
Yes, on GenesisRadio.com. Tune in every Monday,
Every
6
Monday.
to 7 p.m. Have a good night.
Peace out.
Later.